I'm Teena. My intention today is to show you how my teaching program addresses the Western Australian curriculum for the DMT course. The overall project I'm setting for the students is for them to design and produce an artefact. It has to address RSPCA and look at the mission and the values and the imagery associated with such in order to make a box that can be used for a fundraiser and raise money for the organisation. The trinket box is similar to this but includes the design elements of an intarsia or a laser engraver on the box. That's just a basic design. How my teaching strategy addresses the Western Australian curriculum. We start up here with the overarching statements for materials and technologies specialisations. Over here, I address this one by the consumer values. So the trinket box has to appeal to the consumers to make money for the RSPCA, and the students need to take that into consideration. They need to consider social and ethical points because they need to look at the missions and the values of the RSPCA for the actual design, and obviously the community needs is because it's to protect animals in our community. The other overarching statement is students learn the tools and they learn the equipment to develop and manufacture their trinket box. This goes on for the duration of the course. In the course also I've asked them to consider sustainability. So what they've been asked to do in my program is to consider the feasibility of using an upcycled pallet to make the trinket box instead of wood provided for them. I've also addressed this in the evaluating stage down here. I've also asked the students many times within my program to work collaboratively. They are to work in pairs to achieve a common goal, such as the map labelling in week 1, production plan outlines in week 3, and the assembling and the clamping in week 8, which definitely needs group input. Consideration of economic factors. Students need to consider the artefact's appeal and quality of consumers in order to sell it, and that one goes with this strand point over here. In weeks 2, 4 and 5, the design phase, the students have to consider the RSPCA mission values for the ideation that would appeal to the customers in order for this one to sell. We have got our thinking for design strands, which include these sub-strands down the bottom here. First one, managing the project. Students are asked to manage the project in a few different ways. The first one is the production outline. A basic overview where I've provided them with cards, and in groups they have to put the cards in sequence of how they believe their artefact will be produced. I've introduced it this way because they're not probably at the point yet, the experience to do a full production plan, so I thought this might ease them in for subsequent years 10, 11 and 12. The production process. I've asked them to record the process of production, what they did, how they did it, what tools they used throughout the duration of the teaching program. The other thing I've included is weekly checklists in their workbook. They have to check off on a chart in the classroom to make sure they're keeping up to the point where they should be, and also keeping in mind their timeline and thinking about the time to complete their product. I've asked them, investigating and defining is another sub-strand. They have to define the needs of an end user. Alright, for this I use the design brief in week 1. They'll need to research and define again the mission and the values of the RSPCA. And they need to gather images that are inspiring to them. They need to develop a design brief. Alright, and for this, they've asked to actually summarise the design brief as opposed to design one, which they can actually have practice for year 10s, 11s and 12s. The whole point is for them to get familiar with design briefs. I've asked them to set sizes or constraints. Consider the constraints in a project. So I've set certain sizes they're allowed to use for the legs, for the carcass with the pine. They can go smaller, but they cannot go larger for this. I've also used constraints where they have to use cut-offs for their intarsia production. And a range of technologies have been provided for choice, where they can either use their intarsia or they can use their laser cutting using CAD and going for their actual decorative design. Designing. Alright, when I design a trinket box, I have asked them to use, just for the box design in week 2, rapid concept sketching and draft working drawings. I've also asked them in week 4 to design the intarsia, the working drawings and the templates for that. And for the laser engraving, they have draft working drawings on CAD, which they then can export to Lightburn in order to get the laser engraving. Both of these include the rapid concept sketches in the workbook. Producing and implementing. Alright, they produce and implement week 3 onwards. They manufacture their artefacts and they revise their working drawings as they go through. And finally, evaluation. I've asked them to do 2 activities with their evaluation. The first one is evaluation of other artefacts. Using post-it notes, they have to walk around and put on a feedback sheet next to each artefact, 2 wishes and a star on the feedback sheet. And this is a group evaluation. The students then take their own feedback sheet, which applies to their artefact, and they do their own self-evaluation, which is broken into 5 parts to reflect the upper school portfolio, again, to help them ease into the proper portfolio components for upper school. Thank you for your time.